What's going on, guys? So I want to make a video today because I've found a really strange and interesting connection, right? I'm going to start off with this. I realize that some days I'm not as articulate as I need to be, and I actually want this video. I'm going to record this the whole way through, and this is going to seem really strange, and I will give you guys a what's called a disclaimer. The topic that I'll be talking about is not one that has been absolutely refined to the best of its ability, but the intention is for you guys to see at the end of the video if the way that I can articulate myself and my flow of thoughts has improved, right? Why is it? And I realized, rather, sales is the key to you being able to articulate your thoughts. Sales is actually the key to you having mental clarity and, strengthening your inner dialogue. I was talking with one of my salesmen. She's a top salesman. She's an absolute beast. I watched her close a deal, right? And we have very high ticket products. I watched her close a deal so freaking quickly on just one call. She had already practically closed the client, not completely, but I was absolutely impressed. And I asked her, I was like, I asked her, it's like, so how do you do that? Like, how do you do such a good job? I'm the coordinator, keep in mind, or I was the coordinator, and still she's obviously, much better than I am at selling, especially in Spanish. I'm not the best at selling in Spanish. I am in English to some extent, because I have some experience. I'll get into that later. But, I asked her, it's like, how do you do it? And then she was like, I've just been practicing all my life, of course, right? And then she says that sometimes she just enjoys learning the topic of how to make a sale, what the sales process is, how to sell. She enjoys learning that because she says that it helps her not only in sales, but it helps her in many parts of life. And I realized, I was like, I made the connection instantly, almost instantly, because I had speculated that this was the case. But as soon as she said that, I was like, if it helps her with other facets of life, then surely that's been the factor as to why whenever I feel like I can't articulate myself well, whenever there comes a period, because I have these spikes, right? And they start going down where I don't know if it's when I wake up at 4:30 sometimes or something that I do, something different that I implement into my routine. But the days that I've given sales presentations where I've given sales training to my salesmen, dude, I don't know if it's the fact that I'm up there presenting, that I like presenting in front of them, or I don't know if it's the fact that I'm teaching and I'm relearning every time I have to give them or have to give them this orientation on sales. But it tremendously helps me out almost for an extended period of time, and thoughts just start popping into my head much clearer. I almost feel like it clears up brain fog. That's how powerful it is. And I'm going to actually give you guys a sales presentation, all right, on how to sell. And I want to see, the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to see if by the end of the video I can articulate myself better. Because at the end of the day, let's get into this real quick. What is sales? Sales is you being able to communicate the confidence that you have in a product to someone else. And so the communication that's involved with trying to sell such a high ticket product is going to be immense, because first of all, you're doing the hardest thing you can do with your words, and that's sell, convince. And then you're doing it for a specific product. You have to see how you can integrate the physical things that someone may not care about, and realize how they care about it, how to make them care about it. You have to see how it aligns with their motives and their reasons, and then you have to connect those both. And to do that, it's a much more complex process. You have to establish, rapport. You have to, communicate yourself clearly, express confidence, and all these things that are involved just to get this physical thing, this tangible thing, to resonate with someone's fundamental motivations in an indirect way, right? That's an extremely complex process. I think that's the hardest form of communication, and as soon as you master the hardest form of communication, everything else will fall in line. Let me break this down. I may have to cut this up so it's not too long of a video, but I'm going to do a presentation on how to sell. All right. I wish I had a whiteboard behind me so I could show you guys. Number one, right? And so keep in mind, these may be a little bit more directed towards the type of sales that we do at our company, which is, on the phone, literally straight cold calls and of high ticket products. We're talking about things that are worth over 100,000. I'm not going to get into detail what they are, although I will in another video. And here's what the ideal call goes like. And by the way, this is something that I've discussed with my top salesman. I was asking her what her strategy is, and she's in agreement. Maybe there's some things that she didn't really articulate, because there's some people who just naturally get at selling, they're naturally good at the communication. And there's other people who have to build it up consciously and do it consciously, right? So it's either a talent or it's a strength or it's both. And to be able to articulate it, I think is the best thing that you can do. And so she doesn't understand it quite well. She can just do it. However, I've taken a lot of effort to try to understand it. So, and mind you, I would never think that I was going to get in sales. I hated it. I started door knocking, guys. I started doing door-to-door sales, selling solar panels. It was tough. And then, now the type of sales that we're doing today, I actually genuinely enjoy. I find the passion in it. And so as a result, I find myself, just like my salesman, trying to learn sales constantly, just out of enjoyment almost. I can almost indulge in it. And so the first approach that we take, right, is the introduction. The introduction when you're on a phone call, for example, the intention here should be to buy time with curiosity. We have we're fortunate enough that whenever we collect a lead, we get them with their name, right? But that's all we have. We maybe have a little bit more information, but that's all we need, actually. So you have to introduce yourself. You have to keep in mind that the person who just answered the call does not know you, and therefore they have no intention of staying on the phone with someone who doesn't know you, because obviously if they don't know you and you know their name, and if you're calling them, you're offering them something. And if you're offering them something, then chances are it's for your own benefit as well, right? So that's something to keep in mind. Whenever someone offers you something, whenever a casino offers you all sorts of things, right? Money, whatever, it's usually for their benefit. And so the only way that we can negate that, right? The only way that we can we're not going to negate that, but we're going to have another emotion that's going to even propel us to have that, or not propel. What's the proper word here? We're going to have another emotion. We're going to invoke something else that's going to give them the motivation to stay on the call, despite the fact that they may be being sold to, right? And that is whenever we use and call them and answer, whenever they answer, we present ourselves with the tone as if we already know them. Hey, is this so-and-so? Or that would be the wrong approach, right? Hey, is this so-and-so? No, we go, hey, so-and-so, how you doing, man? And then they're like, hey, who is this? So now you've just, as a result, there can be many approaches at this, but as a result, you've just made them curious. It's like, is this someone that I know? And you, as a result, have bought yourself about 15 seconds to present yourself. Hey, yeah, I'm that guy who, or, hey, actually you filled out one of our forms, and, that sort of thing. And then so you buy time with curiosity, and that's the first thing that you have to do, is because the curiosity will invoke that emotion that will be stronger than the supposition that they have that you're selling something to them. And so then as a result, the second thing that you do is you have to recognize their problem, right? You have to reaffirm with them the problem they were intending to solve whenever they filled out that form, for example. Or rather, more specifically, you have to say something among the lines like this. And I guess by the way, I'm not too familiar with this. I'm just reading this for the first time. So, not for the first time, for the first time in a while. So, hey, I saw the problem, but recognized your interest in solving it. Basically, that's what it boils down to. Can you confirm? You have them confirm that, yes, I had a problem, and yes, I had the intention of solving that problem. right? So you've just made them aware of, you just brought them back to that exact same state whenever they filled out that form, whenever they had that curiosity, whenever they were actually considering whenever they had the mental picture in their head that they could envision themselves buying whatever it is that we're selling, right? Because that product that they were buying was simply a manifestation of the solution of their problem. So, of course, you have to do like this, as follows. Hey, I saw your problem, but recognize your interest in solving it. And this can look something like, hey man, I saw that you had solicited, hey man, I saw that you'd filled out a form on one of our products here in da-da-da. And I just wanted to ask, is it right that you filled this out on, or sorry, that's not a good demonstration. Hey, so I saw that you filled out this form, and and I recognize that your intention of filling out this form is because you wanted to do this, and this is the form you filled out on Sunday. Is that correct? And he's like, yes or no. If they say no, then obviously then they have no intention. I'm not sure if I'm articulating this well, but if they say yes, then okay. Well, there's some. If they say yes, obviously, then they have some measure of interest, right? If they say no, then maybe we're calling the wrong person, even possibly, right? So it's very important to clarify that with them. I think if they say yes, on that first answer, we can clarify if we can move forward, right? So that's at least eliminating. If they say no and they're just denying it, then obviously they can't put themselves in a mindset that they had whenever they fill out the form again. They're just someone who constantly fluctuates on their emotions, and they never want to. They just buy impulsively, possibly, which is good, but we have to find a way to invoke that emotion. But it's something that we can do, and this is not what the strategy focuses on. So then you say something along the lines like this. Okay, great. I understand your willingness to solve the problem. I commend you for your intention to solve that problem. And I just want to help you a little bit more with that. Can you please give me something to work with? Right? And so you realize, you first of all compliment them. You recognize that their intention to solve the problem was in the right direction, that they're doing something good, that their intention to solve the problem, is a reward in itself. And that, obviously if they've already put themselves in wanting, if you've already brought them back to the time where they had that intention of solving the problem, then now whenever you're asking them, whenever you commend them, whenever you reward them, and then you on top of that ask them, hey, I want to help you a little bit more with that, then you're giving them, you're giving that sense of you're making it seem like it's more reciprocal, So, hey, you give me something and then I'll help you as a result. And all of this keeping in mind that they have that intention still of wanting to solve that problem. And this should take a very small amount of time, right? So this should be done in a few seconds, right? We're talking about 20 seconds here. I know I've taken much longer to explain this. I got to compress this and start explaining it faster. But then you kind of take the stance of a psychologist, depending on what they say. Oh yeah, I was this. And then you take the perspective of a psychologist, right? And then, or rather, in the previous question that you asked them, you were taking the position as a psychologist, essentially. It's like, hey, tell me more about your problem so that I can help you, right? Tell me something that I can work with. You're not automatically going and just selling them, hey, this is why our product is right for you. No, you're not even going and talking about the product at all. You're just saying, hey, give me something to work with so that I can help you, so that I can better understand your situation, essentially. And then they'll clear up with you what they want, right? And then you have to open up to them personally, right? You have to open up to them on a personal level, and then that establishes some sort of frame to where, yes, we can indeed open ourselves, like, you're taking the frame of the conversation here, and you're now letting them know that there's a new rule to the conversation that we're having. Yes, I can open up to you. I'm giving you the confidence. I'm taking the risk and giving you the confidence and telling you about my personal life. And as a result, you can do the same. But with what intention, right? Why am I telling them about my why am I telling them about my personal life? Because on top of that, I'm not only telling them about my personal life, but I'm telling them about my personal life and how it correlates with what the answer that they just previously gave us, the psychological question that we just asked them, right? And so it's like, oh yeah, man, my father had the exact same problem. We helped him solve this. You give a short story of a problem resolution that they can paint themselves in, right? So yeah, for example, so and so had this exact same problem, man, and I personally, I try to help them as much as I could, and in the end, they actually ended up doing it, for example, and right now they're doing so well. This is what they're like, right? So you're essentially painting a problem resolution and painting a happy ending in a way that they can envision themselves in that scenario, solving the problem as well. And then as a result, let's see, they'll probably open up to you as well, right? So they can start opening up to you as well. Now, if they don't, then maybe your story wasn't good enough. Maybe you didn't say it with the right tone. And then from there, they'll open up to you personally on that personal level because you've established that you can do that. And then they'll tell you details that now you can even work with even more, right? Because you're doing it in a subtle way that it's just basically conversation. I'm telling you about my personal life, and what I did, and you want to make it more about that. You want to make it seem like you're a person. Hey, yeah, we're working on this, and just give it like somewhat of an extended story. Not too quick, obviously, but just try not to make it scripted. This isn't about having it scripted. This is about guiding the conversation in a manner that it's actually a conversation. Guys, keep in mind that I'm learning as I'm teaching this to you guys. So, and then now they can open up to you too, right? As a result of that, and now they're bringing up things which give you more things to work with. They'll bring up potential pain points, but you'll also be building rapport at the same time. And now you haven't mentioned the details, right? Let's see here. 1 second. Instigates curiosity. Okay, so now you've told them a story, you've painted a story, right? And so now they're opening up to you, they're giving you their pain points, and you haven't mentioned the details to how they solve their problem, right? So you shouldn't mention the details, you should focus more on that is in response to the previous question. You shouldn't focus on the details, you should just focus more on the personal end and how it meant, like what it meant for you to solve that problem and that sort of thing. Try to clarify how it made you happy, how it really did personally solve your problem or solve that person's problem, and not without giving too much details. And so they'll open up to you, but you'll still have that ambiguity about how it is that you solve that problem. And then you follow up on that, right? You follow up on that, actually, once they give you the pain points. You follow up with the most grandiose, inspiring problem or solution proposition, essentially, right? And so in a way that builds off of what you said, about your personal situation or about that personal situation that you had the confidence to mention with them. And you do it in an extremely confident way, obviously. Like you're an absolute visionary, capable, an expert that they can trust and have on your side. And, the problem that you're solving here, you're solving it in a way that just presents you as an absolute expert. So, and obviously related to their pain points, integrating the pain points that they just gave you, integrating their personal, essentially what you're doing here now in this part is that you've opened up to them, they can open up to you. Now you pretty much, when you opened up to them, you still left some space for some curiosity. They opened up to you. And then now with that curiosity, you're satisfying this curiosity here, and you're telling them something even more than what they expected to hear on how you solve the problem specifically, or how the problem can be solved. Rather, it's not even how you solve the problem. It's rather a solution proposition that you were literally painting a story catered to what they've told you about their personal lives, so they can directly paint themselves into that. Obviously there's some guessing that you have to do, or some guesstimation, I guess. based on what they told you, but you have to paint the best solution specifically catered for their problem with your product, essentially. So you have to understand what it is about your product and how it can solve, how your product can exactly solve that same situation for you. Hey man, yeah, I understand that your mother's not really well, but imagine how happy your kids are gonna be whenever they find out that you bought in this, whatever, right? Or, just bring up you now have that to work with. It's an extremely useful tool. And so, right, so you say that, and one of two things will happen. They'll be super inspired, but obviously it depends on their personality, depends on how well you said it, how well you executed it, or they'll create a red flag. They'll be super inspired, right? This will happen simultaneously. They'll be super inspired, but they'll also create red flags. It's like, how do I know that I can trust this person? Wow, that sounds absolutely inspiring, man. Like, I didn't think of it that way. Wow, you're absolutely right. It could help me pay off my mortgage. But that's a reference there. But how do I know that I can trust you though, right? That's going to bring up a whole bunch of red flags. It's like, why are you offering this to me? And then so they'll bring up objections. Objections will come up as a result. And so what happens next is that you have to handle the objection this way, right? Hey, I totally understand your objection. Keep in mind, I'm on your side. We're working through this together. And, my mentor taught me this, one of my mentors. He says, feel, felt, found, guys. This is absolutely critical. Every single business person, every single very, very successful businessman knows this. All the CEOs know this. And as a result, they know the technique that most of the people are going to use to, for example, sell them like a software for the company. But they absolutely know this. Feel, felt, found is essentially, hey, I understand your problem. I'm on your side. We're going to walk through this together. But, this has happened before. Here's another situation. Again, what you're doing is you're painting a problem resolution story, but in a compressed manner. This has happened. My clients have the exact same objection, but this is exactly how we address this problem. And so they're like, oh, okay, perfect. And then they'll bring you up more objections, right? Every single objection that they bring you up, if you find a way to just address this objection using this method, then it's not just going to be, you're not solving it, you're not just addressing an objection, you're actually you're using every single objection as a tool to try to even instill it into them more why this is a good and the best solution for their product. Essentially, what they're doing is like, how do I know that this is a good product? How do I know that they can trust you? You're selling the solution even more. You're taking every single objection and selling it more, and you're ingrating into their head how it is that this helps them to a deep level by bringing up even credibility on how you've helped other clients, right? Or how you've helped other people's lives, how this product has changed other people's lives so they can also paint themselves into that picture. And so you keep on going this, you keep on addressing every single objection, you're consistent, you do it in a way that's confident, like an expert. If you start lacking on one of those objections, like, oh, well, I don't really know, as long as you're not like, you're not stuttering, as long as you're talking in a confident way, then it's going to go well. It's going to go well. And now, of course, depending on that person's personality, again, and I say personality, I mean, some people are very hesitant to take decisions, right? So depending on that component in them, well, you have to now take it upon yourself as a salesman, establish more of the frame now that you also know what their fundamental motivations are, and you realize, hey, this is the right, so like you brought me all your objections up. Well, we know that this is the right decision because I've been able to solve every single one of your problems. So what are you waiting for? You have to establish now a little bit of, you have to take control a little bit of the situation, and you have to imply that you guys are going to work together. So, or that you guys are going to work together, that you're going to that this problem resolution is going to happen, right? In an inspiring way, not in a way that you're like, oh no, this must happen. It's like, hey man, imagine how it's going to be. I can't wait till you buy this Friday. You can't imagine how it's going to change both of our lives to work together in this or whatever. And then, so that's what you do. You imply that you guys are going to work together, and then you maybe might throw in there like, man, because imagine if we didn't, how bad it would go. Maybe like imply that you guys are going to do this, imply into his head, put him in the picture now, but he's actually going across the transaction line, actually going across the closing line, and becoming, closing or buying your product essentially, and then just give like a little downside as to where like a little a potential conflict that may happen if they don't, using their pain points that they give you. Man, imagine if you don't, I guess your kids won't be fed or something like that. Obviously it's too extreme, but you can find out a way to work that in there. It's like, imagine if you don't take the responsibility to address this problem that you know that you should be facing and that works, because I've already clarified every single objection to you. And then after all objections have been addressed, there's still going to be that natural inclination of hesitation, even after you've implied that you're going to work together in a subtle manner, right? There's still going to be that natural inclination of hesitation, right? And so at this point, you have to mention, right? Because some people may need this little push, some people may not, that, hey, actually this isn't such a big thing, for example, right? So for you, this isn't such a big action. Like, we can refund this for you. Why are you even thinking about this? This is refundable. If you're not satisfied with the product, or hey, it's really not just a big problem. You have to make the problem, you have to make it seem like crossing this is actually just a really small step that they could take to clear out, to start working on their really big, on solving what it is they've been waiting to solve, essentially. It's like, it's a small step in the right direction. Really, you're not asking for much. So that's how you can address that natural inclination, and just make them realize that there's not really any negative repercussions and that there's only positive repercussions. Make them see, like, scale it down for them and just be like, hey, this is not really a big thing, man. I don't know what you're thinking. It's not really that big of a leap. It's really obvious to you, Or if you do this, it's really not that big of a leap because you only have to do this. And so you do that, and let me see here. So after that, if you've done your job and you're just gonna be like, well, I'm just gonna wait on you to take the decision. You know better. You kind of act like a father figure. It's like your father's telling you what to do because he knows what's good for you. And if you've already, if you guys have both realized throughout the conversation that this makes sense for you, if you're the client, you've already realized that this makes sense for you, then it's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna ask you. You know better, Like, I've already told you. We've already addressed this. I'm just gonna sit back and see, like, well, it's up to you, man. It's like, oh, no. Brings up a small objection, maybe. Address the small objection, right? And then, so, any objections at this point are just to take just remember it's a little action. So any objections at this point are just going to be small, minor objections. Oh, what if my wife doesn't let me? What if this, And then just be like, oh, well, you know better, right? So, and then you'll see eventually that once you address the small objections, then you'll see the smaller objections. Sometimes you just pity, right? You'll see it. It's like, some small excuse. Oh, are you really going to let that hold you back? And then that's when you just have to go in for the hard close, guys. That's when you just have to be like, hey, what? Like, all right, man, just what's your credit card number? That's when you have to go in now for the hard close, essentially, and just take advantage of that if it's the case that they're still nagging onto this. So this is a whole process, guys. Now we're at the end of this. This is where you close. Obviously, there's more things that are involved with closing, and I'm sure you have to follow up and stuff like that. But this is like the steps that I just took you guys through, and I might post this somewhere, I guess, for you guys to see. These steps that I just took you guys through are, assuming that we made it all the way to the end and the client still didn't object. Sometimes halfway they'll already be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Maybe if it's a small ticket product, they're like, oh yeah, well, sure, here's $1,000, why not? Right? But maybe it's like a $50,000 product, a high ticket sales product. Well, yeah, of course, it's a whole different thing, right? So, with that being said, what is it about this, right? What is it about this? It's you trying to understand the fundamental motivations of that person and trying to fit it into how this product solves and addresses those fundamental motivations for them. All right? And so in life, whenever you're having conversations, whenever you're trying to articulate yourself, every single word that you project is with a very clear intention, which means that you are trying to communicate across something, You're trying to communicate across, you may not trying to be sell, but you're trying to communicate across an emotion. An emotion is much easier to express, right? Because I think we have a natural inclination to do that. It's much easier to express an emotion than it is to tie the emotional reason to buying a product. That is taking two things that are opposite and trying to find how they're intertwined. And so that process of that communication is going to be extremely, that communication process to be able to bring and tie those together is going to be extremely hard, and especially when you do it for many people. When you do it for different people and you understand you have to tie yourself and put yourself in the perspective of different clients, address different objectives, and obviously the structures aren't even going to go like this. I think it's the fundamentals that are here, which is solving the problem, that essence of communication. The communication of emotion is so much easier. And whenever you learn to communicate something as hard as this, I think everything will fall in line. You'll find a way to speak in a way that resonates with most people, that resonates in the particular environment that you're in if you've analyzed that environment. And it's going to help you so much in anything that you do. You have to talk, you're going to be able to talk with more conviction, with more confidence, and more importantly, in a way that resonates with the person that you're talking to. So, that's extremely important. I want to see, of course, I'm going to make other videos now, and I want to see if I just filmed one video. I'm going to post it, and then I might post this one a little bit later. But I'm going to see how my speech has improved. Usually whenever I do this, right? So because I'm clarifying exactly how I have to get across a point that is, so hard to do, cater to that specific person, and that's something that's universally applicable, possibly, to almost every single client that we get, or every single lead that we try to close. I've just boiled down the structure of how to communicate effectively a product. Now, if I can just do that to communicate my ideas, then I've achieved my mission. And so that's actually precisely why I've done this, why I've done this on camera. I could have just done this on my own, but I decided to film it. And now I'm gonna make other videos and see if this helps me. If you see that I'm wearing this shirt, it's because I made the video the same day. So I'm about to film a whole bunch of other things, and hopefully you guys can stay tuned for that. I know this is a very long video, and I honestly will probably make, I'm always analyzing these and seeing the way that I talk, seeing if I'm satisfied with the way that I talk. And I'll probably make another part of this because I haven't talked in front of a camera in a while, so I feel like my articulation isn't as good, but I'll get better at it, and I'm sure there'll come a point whenever I keep on making these videos that I'll be able to express myself really well, and I'll probably make a part 2 of this video. And another thing that I want to do is I want to break down the actual sales. I'm gonna put the sales. I'm gonna actually present the sales strategy with a whiteboard behind me and break it down at a more detailed level after I've tested it even more. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and remember that you can use this effective communication process found in sales in any part of life, and it's going to help you tremendously to be able to communicate your ideas. If you can find the reason why you communicate every idea and cater to that specific person, trying to analyze who the person is, trying to build rapport with them, and see what their fundamental motivations are, and have and establish that connection through clear communication. And that's what you should do every single day of your life whenever you're communicating with anyone. So, see you guys.